Look at your life, how complicated it is, from your family to your friends to the network of friends. So therefore, history is also complicated because it involves you. Let's talk about this. Stay tuned. History is complicated. Your history, my history, everything that we do, every decision that we make ultimately brings us to a place we call the here and now. But if you're not actually at that place at the time when these events occur, you're getting secondhand information. We all are. So we know that history is complicated. We know that your family history is complicated. We know that everybody who is walking around has a history, and I'm sure it has some bit of complication to it. I did something on Ancestry.com one time, and I was trying to add to the family tree, and I noticed that something that was related to my family was entered incorrectly. And that happens because you have somebody else getting information from another source that wasn't directly involved, and sure enough, I was able to correct that information on the platform. But do you see how easily it could be understood by another individual that that was the truth, even though it wasn't? And this happens all the time, because our mainstream media in this country presents information in a way that is designed to to push you into a specific direction so that they can then sell their wars or whatever it is that they're trying to push to the American people. See, this Ukraine and Russian debacle is all opened wide up now for several different reasons. Number one, because we know Zelensky's a fraud. His own generals are fighting against them, and our own United States government wants to send in $60 billion more to support and weaponize a country that has literally lost this war. It's over. It has been over, but the United States wants to keep dumping more money into it. Why? Nobody's asking those questions really seriously in the media. And if you think in opposition to that, you're a meanie because you only support that big old meanie named Vladimir Putin. Well, if you watched the interview with Tucker Carlson the other night, you get a different perspective. And what that perspective is that this wasn't just some meanie dictator with his finger on a button. No, this is a person who thinks strategically about all of the different things that the United States has been doing and the decisions that we have been making over the course of the last 25, 30, 40, and maybe even 100 years that has led us to the place we call the here and now. Like I was telling you before, unless you're actually there when these events occur, you're getting the secondhand information. And how many of us are actually there when these decisions were made and these treaties were broken and these conversations were had that told Russia one thing or another? See, the United States loves painting Russia as the big bear beast, okay, that just wants to trample on all of the countries over there. But many people don't realize that Ukrainians are Russians. They speak Russian. They are Russian. It's just a different province of that whole country, and actually was part of the Soviet Union at one point. But aside from that, if you look at the history behind what Vladimir Putin was talking about and how many times the United States stuck its nose in places that didn't belong, you would get a little uncomfortable yourself if you had all these new NATO bases slowly creeping closer and closer to your border. Okay, I'm not here to, be a cheerleader for Vladimir Putin, but if he is the nationalist president that he has claimed to be and always puts the interests of his own country first, isn't that what every leader is supposed to do for the country they represent? See, we're not asking really tough questions anymore, and I'm often wondering why, but I think I know. See, when you have 93% of everything you read, watch, and listen to being spoon-fed to you, it's kind of hard to know where to go to get the truth anymore. So what I've been trying to do is to slowly present information to get you to realize that I'm just one of you as well, and I'm on the same journey with you. But there are a lot of key places you can go, and I'm going to point you to them to try to get the information that you're going to be able to resonate with, because it's going to make so much sense. Because you don't have to sell truth to anybody. You never have to. It is taken up and stolen, in fact, because people resonate with it. And there's a lot of bullshit surrounding what's going on in the Ukraine and with Russia right now, and why the United States wants to continue to keep funding this operation when we have a wide open southern border that nobody seems to care about. Are you thinking? I'm thinking, because This is what I do every single day when I wake up. I think about this nation first. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Thinking about the best interests of your own family first, and then maybe your neighbor second, and then maybe your local community, then your state, then your nation. That's kind of how it works. If you were giving all of your food to the neighbor's kid and so letting your kids starve in the process, well, you'd be a pretty bad dad now, would you? But that's what the United States government's been doing. And nobody's asking tough questions. As a matter of fact, the mainstream media is covering up for these people. We need to start asking ourselves as American citizens why, and start demanding answers from these people, because they think you're stupid. They think you're ignorant, and they don't think that you're deserving of the truth. They're going to present it to you how they want to, and if you don't like it, tough shit. That's the attitude they have. So when you finally come across something that is genuine, authentic, and truthful, it resonates with you and you gobble it all up, and that's exactly the reasons why there are people standing in line for miles to get to a Trump rally. Okay? The media is painting him as, oh, he's this godlike figure right now. No. When you tell the truth, mainstream media, when you tell the truth and you stand in your own authenticity, people resonate with that. What that is, you see that mile-long piece, that's a middle America. That's not Democrat, that's not Republican, that's make America great again. You forgot something someplace. You forgot who it is that represents this nation. It's the people. What made this country great in the first place is the people. And when the people unite, get the hell out of the way, because we are going to take back what it is you stole from us. If anyone has not seen that interview with Vladimir Putin and Tucker Carlson, it is translated very, very well, and yes, it is a bit boring, but there's a lot of substance to it. You can find a whole bunch of videos online breaking it down, but I want you to get to the ones that are talking about the meat and substance of what's actually going on there. Not the pundits who want to give you analysis about the big meanie, because the big meanie thing is over. Yes, he's not somebody that I would want to trust on a regular basis, but better an ally than an enemy. And when you understand the history of what's really going on here and the money that they continue to keep flooding in there in this money laundering operation in Ukraine, you can see that there's absolutely no vested interest in the Ukrainian people, to be honest. That's not what this money is going to. It's going to these oligarchs who continue to keep funding this nonsense. And all that keeps happening is more Ukrainians keep dying. This is stupid. We all know it's stupid. It's time to get around the table, and I guarantee you that if Trump was at the table right now, this would be over in an hour. This is silly. The reason why Vladimir Putin doesn't even call President Biden is because what the hell are you calling? Everybody knows he has dementia. Everybody's known he's had dementia for a long time, and everybody knows he's illegitimate. How are you supposed to deal with somebody who really is not in charge? There are other people making the decisions for him. He is just a puppet and a figurehead. Nope. I'm sorry. It's time that you and I, as Americans, start talking together and start meeting up together and just start, communicating. We don't have to agree on everything. That's not what America's about. But the things that really matter is your family, is your security, is this nation and the interests of this nation. How are we supposed to do that if we keep letting these people flood our country with illegal migrants, disperse them all over, and have you pay for them? We don't know who any of these people are. And I'm telling you, because of all of the stuff that's gone on in this 3-year period, you're going to start to see the levels of criminality start to come out one day at a time. This past week has been an absolute circus, and it's only going to get worse. Why? Because liars have nothing to stand on. They have nothing to stand on. And when it comes to these situations where you have two individuals or groups of individuals that are constantly lying, cheating, and stealing, well, they don't trust each other. Eventually, they're going to start turning on each other. You're going to start seeing Democrats jump to the other side, people abandoning party, because this isn't about party anymore. We know where the truth lies, and it lies in the American people. Trump understood that, and that is why he's got lines of people backing up to see him. This isn't by accident. You got to start waking up. If you're still sitting there thinking that Joe Biden is your candidate, is your horse, or anything that has to do with the Democrat Party, that is not a party for the American people anymore. They haven't been for a very long time. And that interview kind of exposed all of what's going on. You're smarter than this. Get involved where you live. Find your lane. You have something to bring to the table. But when you find your lane, you add to the benefit of this nation. And that's all we're supposed to do. as good Americans, as good patriots, we're supposed to leave this place better than we received it. And I'll be damned if we're going to leave it in the hands of this shit. All right, my friends, I will see you on the battlefield. Find your lane, something you can do. Talk about it, bring it to somebody, change their mind. I'll talk with you soon. Take care. Peace.
You know, Putin every day says, I want to settle the war, let's negotiate. And Zelensky has said, we're not going to negotiate. But Zelensky didn't start that way. I don't want to, belabor the history, but Russia was invaded 3 times through Ukraine. The last time Hitler killed 1 out of every 7 Russians. They don't want to have Ukraine join NATO. So when the wall came down in the Soviet Union, Europe, Gorbachev destroyed himself politically by doing something that was very, very courageous. He went to Bush and he said, I'm going to allow you to reunify Germany under a NATO army. I'm going to remove 450,000 Soviet troops, but I want your commitment. After that, you will not move NATO 1 inch to the east. And we solemnly swore we wouldn't do it. Well, then in 97, Brzezinski was the first of the neocons, said, we're going to move NATO 1,000 miles to the east and take 15 countries into it and surround the Soviet Union. So then we not only move it into 14 new nations, but we unilaterally walk away from our 2 nuclear weapons treaties with the Russians. And we put Aegis missile systems in Romania and Poland 12 minutes from Moscow. When Russians did that to Cuba in '62, we came this close to nuclear war until they removed them. So the Russians don't want nukes 400 miles from Moscow. We then overthrow the Ukraine government. In 2014, their elected government, and put in a Western sympathetic government. Russia then has to go into Crimea because they have a port. It's their only warm water port. And they know the new government that we just installed is going to invite the US Navy into their port. So Russia then went into Crimea without firing a shot, because the people of Crimea are Russian. Then the new Ukrainian government we installed started killing ethnic Russians in Donbass and Lugansk, and they voted to leave and join Russia. Putin said, I don't want them. Let's give them protection and give them semi-autonomy and make an agreement to keep NATO out of Ukraine. That treaty was written by Germany, France, Russia, and England, the Minsk Accords. And the Ukrainian parliament, which is controlled by ultra-rightists, and that's a nice way of talking about them, refused to sign it. Zelensky runs in 2019. He's an actor. Why did he get elected with 70% of the vote? Because he promised to sign the Minsk Accords. He promised peace. He gets in there and he pivots. Nobody can explain why, but we know why. Because he was threatened with death by ultra-rightists in his government and a withdrawal of support by the United States by Victoria Nuland, who's the leading neocon in the State Department. We told him he could not sign it. So then the Russians go in, they don't send a big army, they only send 40,000 people. It's a nation of 44 million people. They clearly do not intend to conquer Ukraine, but they want us back at the negotiating table. We won't allow Zelensky to go back, so he goes to Israel and Turkey and says, will you please help me negotiate a treaty? The Russians just want a guarantee that Ukraine won't join NATO. Zelensky signs the treaty, Putin's people sign the treaty, and Putin starts withdrawing the Russian troops in good faith. And what happens? Joe Biden sends Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, over to Ukraine in April and forces him to tear up the treaty. And since then, 450,000 kids have died who none of them should have died. For every one Russian that dies, 5 to 8 Ukrainians die, and they don't have any men left. You know, we're giving them all these weapons, but they don't have men left. It's a catastrophe, and we look kind of like the aggressor. That's the way the rest of the world sees it.